Hi everyone, and welcome to Vente's weaving classes. As mentioned previously in the previous video, we're going to thread this loom up now. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to need some way to hold the yarn on to the first hook to stop it from coming off. And the simplest and most easiest way is to just do a little basic knot like that and just hold it on the first warp end that you're going to be using and pull it tight. This way it holds and it's not going to go anywhere in a hurry, to be honest with you. So then we would take this to this side of the loom, and I'm going to move the board over so that you can actually see what's going on there. So what we're going to do is go around the first nail and loop it around like that. Okay, then we're going to do the same process, but we're going to go inwards like that and over. Okay, so now you're on the second nail, which will be your second warp end, and as you can see you've got a gap between the two ends, which you are wanting to do. You will bring it over to the opposite side and you will follow through with the same idea on this side like that, and again like that. Okay, and then bring it over to this side and do it again. And you'll repeat this all the way through all your nails. This is going to give you your warp end that you need in order to make your fabric. So we can do that. And we keep doing this until we get to the end of the loom. It doesn't really matter which way you do this, as long as you manage to get a decent hold on all of the warp ends. Something to remember when doing this is to make sure that your ends are not too tight, because you don't want them to be extremely tight. When weaving, percentage of the yarn will come inwards. This is a normal thing for it to happen in the weaving process, and you could call that being your average crump or your pull into your fabric. Don't worry about it being uneven at the moment. We will sort that out at the end, where we will level it off with the metal ruler. Again, you see here you've got little fiber over there that's pulling out. For this type of yarn, that's very common because it's a staple spun yarn. That would become a slub in the weaving process. Again, this will become a slub as well. This is probably a knot where it's been joined. I'm not 100% sure, but it will make the fabric look quite unique, because it has these little impurities in it. It will give the finished product a little bit of character, as to just being a straight, plain forward look to the fabric. It will have little markings or distortions on the fabric itself, which will make it look quite unique. If there is anything that anybody doesn't understand, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments, or email me your questions, and I'll be more than happy to come back to you with answers for you. I will leave the email address for this page in the comments on the YouTube and also in the Facebook page, where you'll be able to email me, or otherwise just send me a private message and we can have a little chat about things that you don't understand, or if you have any questions about weaving. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. When we start getting into more detail of the training, I will be using different colored yarns, a certain color to show a warp, a certain color to show a weft. When we start getting into complex weaving where we're talking about multi-layered fabrics, potentially we'll use a different color of yarn for each and individual different layer of fabric that we're going to be doing. I'm hoping to be able to teach you how to make tube fabric as well in this. This would be commonly seen in the narrow fabrics industry, not really in the broad industry. When I talk about broad industry, I'm talking about flat sheet fabric that's basically used for clothing, sheeting, for bedding and things like that. That's what it would be commonly used. Over the years, broad loom weaving has come a long way, and we also do something called composite weaving, which is a multi-layer fabric that is made and especially designed. A very common place to find this composite weaving, which is known as 3D weaving, would be in the aerospace industry, especially for making the propellers for the jet planes. So when you're flying, you'll notice that the new model aeroplanes actually have carbon fiber blades in the front, which was made in a composite weaving industry. This makes the propellers really lightweight and more versatile. The design of it can be more flexible by using the composite weaving process with it. Just a little bit of interesting fact about where we are these days with our broad loom industry. Narrow fabrics, again, that is mainly to do with fabrics that are used for belting and tires and things like that. You'll tend to find that your fire hydrant hoses and things like that are actually woven and then coated with a PVC coating. Okay, so we seem to have an extra end, but that's not a problem. We'll just do that with that side. So it's a bit close on the side, but we're not going to be overly concerned and worried about that. Okay, so I need to cut this off, so I'll just grab a pair of little scissors, and hopefully they're sharp enough to cut the yarn. Yes, they are. To finish this off, what we're going to do is just take it and loop it around that end like that. Do you see how that's gone around that one? So we'll hold our finger on the nail that side and we'll bring it close in, then wrap it around the nail again and repeat what we've just done. Okay, as long as it stays over the nail, then we'll be good. Okay, so that is your weaving loom in a nutshell. If you're worried about the other end becoming loose, you can also do what we've done there again. It probably would be a good idea to do that because it'll stop it from unraveling itself when you weaving, because it will put a bit of tension onto that. So maybe it might be a good idea just to double lock it and then we are sorted. So then all we do is we grab our ruler and we slightly push it down on the ends like that, or lift it up until you can actually get them to become relatively even for you to be able to weave. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is, in case when we're weaving, if one of these ends were to come off, it might cause a problem and we'll lose where everything is. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in 2 leases into the fabric for one side and the opposite side. And the reason why we're doing that is if anything does come loose, we'll be able to retrieve it by using our leases. Okay, so now that we've finished threading up our weaving loom, our makeshift DIY weaving loom, we now need to put in those leases, like as I mentioned before, in case something goes wrong on the nails and we need to recatch what we've lost. So we're going to make a lease. I'm just going to use a standard string that came from a DIY shop for the leasing process, and the reason why I'm using a thick one is because it's easier to trace things back if we use a thick one. If we go for a very thin yarn, we tend to find that it runs all over the place and we lose control of our leasing strings. So to do this, we're going to make one lease and then make another lease for it. So we're going to go that length and double it, because what we're trying to do is we need to do a plain weave for a lease, and that's a one up and one down process, which we're going to be using the plain weave when we do this weaving construction on this fabric. So we'll go through all the major details of a plain weave in the next video, but for this video we're going to quickly make a lease on both sides so that we can keep control of things. So we want to be able to have it where we can have a decent amount on either side, because we're going to cross over. So I'm just going to cut this off over here, and then I'm going to put this through the hole in the ruler. Okay, and I'm just going to tie a wee little knot into it, like this. And that's going to hold that thread in place, and then obviously once we finish threading it through, we'll cut that off. So a plain weave, even though we're not getting to that process at the moment, is a 1 over and 1 under. So over your first end, under your second end, okay, over your third, under, over, under, over, under, over, all the way through until you get to the other side. Okay, when you get to the other side, we're going to do the same process again, but in the opposite direction. This is going to give us what we call a lease. It's vitally important to have leases when working with a very large amount of warp ends. So as you can see, if you pull it up, you can see that only a certain ends are coming up in this process. So you want to pull your yarn thread through till you get this end on this side to be about in that position. Okay, and then we're going to start the process again. As you can see, the last one that we did was an over on the warp end. So we want that one to be underneath, and the ones that were under on the first run now need to be on the over position. And the ones that were over need to be on the under position. And you can quite clearly see from over there that that next warp end is on the under position from the first one. It now needs to be over in the over position. Do you see that? Okay, so we'll continue doing that all the way through. So once you get the idea, it goes pretty quickly and pretty easily. As you can see, once you're used to it, it goes quite quickly and you don't have any issues. Don't be concerned if you accidentally do that, where you've put one that was over previously on the over again. It's okay, just pull your ruler out and then go back in again, like that. And you will continue to do this until the very end. Okay, so that's the ruler through to the opposite side, and it's doing the reverse of the first one. Okay, so this will then now become your lease. So whatever happens now, you have full control of those warp ends, that if something were to happen, you'll be able to retrace it and fix what's gone wrong. So just unthread your ruler, just like this. And then what you're going to do is just grab that end and that end together and tie a quick knot into it. And then I'm going to show you how you can check that your lease is correct by means of lifting. So you've got thread on this side and you've got thread on this side. Now this is what you would call your weft. If we were to move it to the middle, you see how if something gets crossed, or gets out of place when it's weaving, you can use your lease thread to run through and make sure that you've got no knots to the opposite side. If you see that this is the glory about having a lease thread. It gives you the opportunity on keeping everything under control. So if we were to lift that side and that side, you would know if something was wrong, you would have an end sticking out and it wouldn't go underneath the next one. So that way you can check if your lease is correct. You can also you will also need to do it by looking on the underneath side of it. I hope you guys can see there. So if there is one that's in the wrong position and you lift it, that thread will be left behind. Okay, that gives us a good idea on what's going on there. So now that we've got a lease for this side, always when you're pulling your lease along the fabric, keep it wide open like that. Okay, so we have a lease this side, and that is now going to control those warp ends and keep everything under control. We're going to repeat the same process again for the opposite side. So I'm just measuring my yarn by going for the full length of our warp ends and then doubling it up. Again, the same process. This just ensures that I have enough for the width of the fabric, because we know that the width of the fabric is a lot narrower than the actual warp. Make sure you don't break any warp ends when you're doing this. Open it up like that, and you can tell if you've got any that are in the wrong place, because that would be floating on the top or the bottom. So pull up, you can look underneath of it, you can see that there's nothing underneath, and then pull down and you can see none of them are floating on the top. So this lease is for the opposite end of the loom, just in case we need it. If anything goes wrong, we have a backup plan to retrace our steps. Okay, so that's how you make a lease. And we will now start weaving this in the next video, and hopefully you've enjoyed the video so far, and I hope to see you very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.